After Joey Logano's third championship with the NASCAR playoff format, it is under the most criticism I have ever seen it. And it has become a trend for everyone to craft their own little version of what the playoffs should look like. Now, I will start this off saying right now, the best way to crown a champion of your sport in a motorsport is probably to just do a full season points format. I will admit that. I would love that. Or you could even go back to the chase formats, right? A 10 race chase, that's just one reset and then, battle it out for 10 races. That would be fine too with me, to be honest. But I crafted a playoff format that still has eliminations, but it's going to borrow some features from the chase format, and I'm going to make some little tweaks to make it a little bit more consistent so that we can comfortably call our champion the best driver of the season. Because I think obviously with Joey Logano's championship and other championships in this era, it's very hard to look at our champion and call them the best driver, and I think that is a major problem. So without further ado, I made a little graphic because in my opinion, if your championship format cannot be explained in one graphic, then it is too complicated. So I tried to keep this within one graphic so I didn't get it too complicated. That was my limit. This is also, borrowing a lot of things that already exist with the current playoff format. Obviously, 5 playoff points for wins, 1 for stage wins. We'll get into that. So if you want to pause and read this, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the regular season. So let's start with the first half of it. If I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. So the regular season, there's 2 ways to qualify. Only 2 ways. Right now, in the current format, it's looking for 16 guys. It's going to take whoever's won races, and then if there's any leftover spots, they fill it up with points. I'm going to kind of flip that. This format will prioritize points, okay? Top 10 in points are the first drivers to get in, right? If you are top 10 in points, you will be in the playoffs no matter what, win or not. And they will get the same playoff rewards or playoff point rewards that they currently do in the format, except I'm bumping all those points up by 5. Okay, so instead of 15 for winning the regular season, it is now 20. And it goes, to 15, 13, 12, all the way down to 6 if you get 10th place. The reason I bump them all by 5 is to kind of set them apart from the wildcard drivers. And I'll go ahead and talk about that. So the wildcard drivers, in the wildcard format from 2011 to 2013, it was looking for 2 drivers. The 2 drivers through 11th through 20th with the most wins. Here, I'm going to keep this simple. If you're outside the top 10, obviously, then you can be eligible for the wildcard. Okay? There can be as many wildcards. There's no maximum limit. There's also no minimum limit. So if there is nobody outside the top 10 in points with wins, then they don't qualify, right? If there are 7, 8 guys with wins outside the top 10 in points, then they will qualify, okay? I think, and here's why I do this. I think the winning a race and it gets you into the playoffs, I think it's cool. I think there's some value to it. Obviously, though, they shouldn't be the favorites. And that's why I gave the top 10 in points. I gave them 5 extra playoff points in their little 1st through 10th bonuses, because I think it was kind of silly that Harrison Burton winning at Daytona started the playoffs with more playoff points than Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs, who are in the top 10 in points. I don't think that should be a thing, right? So unless you win 2 races or if you've won a lot of stages, you're gonna be starting at the bottom of the playoff grid. You're gonna be a bottom seed, which is how it should be, in my opinion. So, because I originally had it so where the wildcard drivers, if you qualify via a wildcard, you forfeit all your stage and stage or playoff points. You just forfeit all your playoff points. But then I realized if you're someone like Daniel Suarez who wins, Atlanta early in the season, and there's not a likely chance that you're going to be top 10 in points, then you would probably just take the rest of the regular season off. I don't want that to happen. It could still maybe kind of happen as it is now, the current format, but they need something to fight for. They need to be fighting for stage wins and race wins still. That should be valuable to them. So I just bumped up the top 10's playoff points. And so retroactively looking back at this, there are some seasons, like 2022, for example, 17 drivers would have qualified for the playoffs under this format, right? Martin Truex Jr. would have gotten in, like, because he would have been top 10 in points. That's the only extra addition, right? This year, 2024, the playoff field would have been exactly the same, right? And I know people were upset that Chris Buescher didn't make the playoffs. Listen, dude, if you're not consistent enough to be top 10 in points, you don't need to be fighting for a championship. And I know that's an unpopular take considering what Joey Logano just did. Is there maybe too much value on winning a race? Maybe, but I want to kind of keep this realistic. So I'm going to keep this wild card portion of qualifying for the playoffs. I just think it's cool. And there were also some seasons like 2019, 2015, only 12 guys would have qualified. Controversially, in 2015, Jeff Gordon would have not qualified for the playoffs, so he would have never made it to the Final Four. But that was the only like Final Four driver that would have not gotten in based on this kind of new system. But I also don't like retroactively looking back on, you know, what the playoffs would look like with this format, because obviously drivers race different. And that's why I'm not going to bother calculating, you know, how would have people done with this format this year? Because Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick took races off after they locked themselves in. So I'm not going to look at that. So let's look at the playoffs now. So I simplified this more than what it was currently. I feel like, because I think the problem with the Cup Series playoffs, there's two main problems. The first problem that I'll get to right now is that it felt like the round of 16 kind of felt like it dragged on a little bit. Like, oh, we're going to eliminate from 16 to 12. Like, some people think only 12 people should be in the playoffs, right? So because of, you know, the way this works, if you don't have a lot of wild cards, then maybe you only have 11 or 12 guys in the playoffs. So there's going to be an opening round. That's 4 races. Minimum of 10 drivers, obviously, plus any wild cards. And they are fighting for 8 spots in the round of 8. Okay. So they're going to spend these first 4 races more than usual, right? Instead of it being a 3-race round, it's 4 races. Winning will lock you in automatically. I'm going to keep that. I know that's kind of controversial. I know some people don't like it. I'm going to keep it because I think those Game 7 moments, they're kind of cool. And it technically keeps everybody in the fight. You're never going to be mathematically unable to move on. I think you have to keep that, or else this elimination format kind of just doesn't work, in my opinion. You always have to have an option to just clutch up and advance. So, but it works very similar to the current playoff rounds. It's just, you know, the number of drivers are different, right? So it could go from 17 drivers all the way down to 8 drivers. It could be 10 drivers just down to 8 drivers. And my favorite thing with this is that this will work with the trucks and the Xfinity schedules. You can run this exactly the same in the trucks and Xfinity. Maybe make the trucks one shorter since their season's shorter, but I don't know, you can do whatever you want. And this is all leading into the Championship 4, okay? And my second problem with the current playoffs is the one-race championship. And the biggest reason, you know, there's issues, right? You know, one track deciding the champion, like whoever's good at Phoenix is the champion of the whole season. That's kind of dumb. I agree. But my actual issue is the fact that your playoff points help you get through the entire playoffs until the very most important part of it, the championship. That is dumb. By design, that is dumb. The playoff points are such a key feature to rewarding the regular season and your regular season performance. It should help you fight for the championship. So here's how it works, all right? There are 3 races. You could have left it 1 race and have playoff points applied. I think that gets a little weird. You know, it kind of defeats the point of it being 1 race. So 3 races to make it more consistent, right? 4 drivers still, and your playoff points get applied. Because I think if you're someone like Kyle Larson Kyle Larson he was the number 1 seed. He should go into the Final Four if he qualifies for it with an advantage, right? That is just, he should have the easiest time to becoming a champion, right? Now, there's still mistakes. It's still only 3 races. If you have 1 bad race, you are kind of screwed. Or if you are Kyle Larson, you know, then your advantage, your cushion is completely gone. Or maybe you're just a little bit behind than being a lot behind, whatever, right? I think the playoff points being applied makes me feel so much, it makes me feel a lot better than deciding this champion in 1 race, honestly. 3 races, playoff points. This just makes it so much better, much more consistent. If Joey Logano with less playoff points, well, he did have a lot of wins in the season, to be fair, but not as many playoff points as somebody else. If he can go and dominate for 3 races and beat everyone else, I think he deserves the championship at that point. Right, most points is the champion. Track selection, you can do whatever you want. You could put Phoenix and Homestead and Las Vegas in the championship round in whatever order you want. If NASCAR wants the track with the nicest facility to be the absolute final race, go ahead. Doesn't really matter. But this puts less pressure on, for example, Phoenix being a kind of a mediocre track. It puts less pressure on Phoenix to have this great, amazing race. It's going to reward consistency a little bit more, bigger sample size. And then for stuff like the opening round, I think you could put tracks like road courses and super speedways in that round to kind of cater to if anybody qualified by winning a super speedway or a road course, kind of, like a wild card race, then maybe they have a magical round of 8 entrance by winning Talladega in the opening round or whatever, right? Some people might not like that. Again, I wouldn't mind getting rid of that win in advance stuff, but I figured might as well keep it because NASCAR seems to really like it, and it's kind of cool. You get moments like Tyler Reddick at Homestead, so might as well keep it. There are still some issues though, again, with that, because the round of 8 this year, Tyler Reddick, Logano, and mostly those 2, and then Blaney, they won the round of 8 races, and then Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, 2 of the best drivers all season, one of them is going to miss it, and that's kind of ridiculous. So, but that's just how it is. And yeah, I think that covers just about everything. I hope I didn't yap too much because, again, I said I wanted to keep this simple. I think I kept it simple, kept it on one graphic, and then I just talked for I don't even know how long, 12 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions about it, about minor details that I didn't go over, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon because our Patreon members saw this first. It just kind of helps us out, helps us, make these afford these really nice things that Restream lets us use. And follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky. Follow us at Gay Racing Pod to keep up with all of our latest episodes, any bonus content that we might be coming out with. And I hope to see you guys next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.